Hello my loves, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to talk about a yoga wedge, what it is, how to use it, and why it might be beneficial for you in your yoga practice. Alright, so if you're not sure the difference between a yoga wedge and a yoga block, here it is. They're made out of the same material, a kind of dense foam, but as you can see, the wedge has a little triangular shape on the edge, whereas the block is rectangular. Yoga block, yoga wedge. I'll leave a link in the description to this yoga wedge if you want to get one for yourself at home. So why would you want to use a yoga wedge over a yoga block? Lots of reasons. Alright, so first up is when you're on hands and knees. If you're on hands and knees, it can sometimes cause a little bit of discomfort on the wrist here. That's just to do with the angle that your wrist is at. Right now, it's around a 90-degree angle. So if I took the yoga wedge and placed it underneath my hands, now my wrists are at a less compressed angle. There's a lot more space for my wrist to kind of relax. This can also be useful for poses such as downward facing dog. Now, if your wrists are fine on your hands and knees, but it's your knees that are causing you issues, then you can turn it around, place your knees on, and then be on all fours, doing whatever you need to do. Now, sometimes it's not the wrists or the knees, but it's your bum. It also has a great benefit for when you come into seated. Quite often when you come into seated and you try and reach towards your feet here, people will just roll from the upper back rather than moving from the pelvis. Now we can help with this with the wedge underneath our bum. So it comes behind, you lift the bum up, you place the bum on the wedge, and then your pelvis is already tilted forward and you can come forward. Already talked about downward facing dog for the wrists, but what about the feet? Quite often when we come into downward facing dog, a lot of people will have their heels lifted away from the floor. That's okay. However, if you're looking for more support for the feet, which is a different thing, use your wedge. Bring it to the back of your mat. Use your wedge. It helps you find more support and stability in the pose. Use your wedge. Alright, let's show you how to use this in standing poses. So let's imagine here that we're in Warrior One. We step back, the heel connects to the floor, and then we try and rotate forward. And sometimes that can cause a little bit of tension in this back hip or ankle or knee. And it could just mean that you need to lift the heel away from the floor and take high lunge instead. But you can use the yoga wedge underneath your back foot. By placing the heel a little higher than the ball of the foot, we can allow more movement of the pelvis and more freedom and support in the pose. And this can happen in other poses too. Same legs, straighten the front one, fold over for pyramid. It's a great way for you to get more length in the front leg in pyramid and go deeper into the pose simply by lifting the back heel. And using the wedge gives you more stability and just more depth into the pose. Speaking of depth, if you're struggling with your forward fold, thinking about surrendering the torso towards the floor, is it the hamstrings or the calves that are causing the issue here? You can discover which one it is by using a yoga wedge. If you come onto your yoga wedge, heels lifted higher than the ball of the foot, and you can get further towards the floor and towards the legs, chances are it's your calves that are your limiting factor. Another way to use your yoga wedge is in chair pose. So in chair pose, we sit the bum down, and we have the chest lifted, and we sit into the heels. And this can be a challenging pose for a lot of people. They don't have the mobility in the ankles for the knees to travel forward. Same as if you needed it in Warrior One or Pyramid pose, you might get some benefit from using your wedge in chair pose. That leads us on to the deep yoga squat. The deep yoga squat is here. Feet connected to the floor, knees separated, maybe the hands rest at the heart center. However, what happens is people don't have the ability to get down and they come down with their heels lifted. Place a wedge. Start off in your chair, sit down. It's going to be much easier with the heels lifted to come into your deep squat. And then you can play with other poses. If you're interested in buying a yoga wedge, I will leave a link in the description to the one that I used in this video. I've had this one about 8 years and it's still going. It's great. Okay guys, I hope that helped. I hope you found something here that you could use of benefit in how to use a yoga wedge in your practice. And remember, my loves, that karma is only a bitch if you are. So be nice, be kind, and be the change that you want to see in the world. Lights, mic, recording, action. I'll leave a link to... Okay guys, I hope that helped. I hope you found some tips, tricks and how-tos of how you can use a yoga wedge, blah blah blah. Don't forget,